when you want to start growing, especially when you're healing and growing, it gets even more important who you're surrounded with, right? Like, can
Mm.
you speak your truth with the person, right? Can you be authentic? I mean, if you can't be those things and you're trying to grow, it's just not going to work, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was surrounded by a bunch of people that didn't support me growing. They liked the unhealed version of me.
Wow. Was it
Mhm.
they could control, or it was predictable?
It's control, it's predictable, and I mean, I took care of everybody. That was kind of my role. And I was a people pleaser, so it was easy. And all of a sudden I started having boundaries and stuff. And it just, you know, that's the thing is like all of a sudden I started thinking like, is this reciprocal? You know what I mean? Am I overgiving? Because that's the other thing. We can
Mm.
tend to overgive. And we're programmed to think that, we were lacking something in childhood, and so that we had to make up for something, or, we weren't enough.
Wow. And placing boundaries, what did that look like for you?
Welcome to Heart Parents. Let's connect with our kids and learn together. I'm Carrie. I was a former teacher and speech therapist. I'm also a parent of 2 spirited, gifted, highly sensitive kids. I was quickly brought to my knees as a parent when I thought that I would see a rosy lens version of parenting just as they present on Instagram, but I quickly learned that's not real life. I will provide real life experiences and transform them into moments for connections and change for you to use in your house. Hi there, conscious parents. Before we start today's episode, it's Carrie here, and I wanted to reach out to ask you guys for a quick favor. As a follower of our show, we would love for you to give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. It can be just a few words, that's it. And it really goes a long way with us, with the podcasting community on Apple or Spotify. So thanks so much for tuning in. And I'm so excited for you to hear today's message. Happy listening.
Hi there, and welcome back to Heart Parents. I'm Carrie. I'm your friendly, intuitive mama here, and I have a wonderful, sweet guest here. You guys get excited. I have my friend Paula Smith, who I have met with Mindful Adventure Coaching on Instagram, and we connected on Instagram, and we were quick friends right away. She's been so supportive of me, and I love her support, and I love sharing how supportive she is. And she's been on this growing journey, as I have as well. And so we connected heart to heart in that. Paula loves to, I'm going to tell this little piece about you, Paula, because it's so fun. Paula loves to help people discover where their blocks are and replace negative patterns and beliefs with an empowered mindset. Thank you so much for being here, Paula.
I'm really excited. I've been excited all week about as we've been leading up to this. So thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So I was mentioning your growth. You've been on a little bit of a journey, and then we met recently and we got to chat and talked a little bit about a journey that I was going through, and you helped me to discover some pieces. I love talking about these pieces as a mom, because I feel like I've been sharing on Instagram. I don't know if you've been following recently, Paula, but I've mentioned that I've been doing some inner growth for myself, and realizing that these pieces had been coming out in like an overbearing mama on my kids. And so as you helped me, and recently Catherine, when I did that episode with her, it just kind of like the two of you aligned in this magical form for me. And it's been really amazing.
Yeah, no, honestly, your last few posts on Instagram on that, on your self reflection of how your childhood and your things are coming up. And I think it's beautiful that you're sharing with everyone, because I mean, we all are doing that. We are all on this journey. We don't just finish this healing, you know what I mean? Just because we have kids, if anything, that's when we really, have to start looking at things, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Important. And you've been so vulnerable about it. I think that's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It was such wonderful things to look at those pieces as a parent. And I hadn't really realized that things that I had been holding back in my life were starting to kind of come up in different cycles. And mine was having to deal with friendships for myself and just being insecure as a child and needing to kind of heal that for myself. But I didn't realize that I was starting to kind of push it onto my kids like, oh, you really need to get out there and make friends and let me help you make friends and let me teach you these tools. And my kids are like, I have friends, mom. I don't know why you're like pushing this on me. So that was really wonderful. And I loved how connecting with you really helped me with that and finding those patterns.
No, it's great. We talked and then we haven't talked since until you started posting those pieces on Instagram. So it was really cool to see the reflections that you were having because we didn't touch base after. So, I didn't know how everything sat with you. So it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you work with others, do you have any tips on how we can find like the patterns that come up for us or anything, any ideas on that for anybody?
I think when for one thing, it's being mindful and noticing patterns. So that's the first part is seeing, these things playing over and over again. And then just maybe, start looking back into your childhood. That's the other thing, because it's all about going back to that root and bringing that up. You know what I mean? Figuring out where it's coming from.
Mm.
Once you have that awareness of where it's coming from, I find that really starts to shift people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Trying to figure out that root cause and it definitely I feel like it definitely continues to come back if we push it down and we don't work on it and bring it to light and live in those emotions, right?
Oh, for sure. And then that's like you said, you brought the emotions up. That's the next piece, I think. In embodying it, instead of turning away when we have those emotions, it's being brave enough sit with them and see what they feel like. Because what has happened is our whole life, we have pushed down those things and that pattern's been going on. So when we learn to stop and sit and feel, then now we're finally them. And now we're able to, you know what I mean, move on without being run by them because they're sitting in our subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So when you're working with someone and you're in that path, have you ever had anybody that continues to not see it or doesn't want to work on it?
No, Tabari haven't had that. Anyone that has reached out has been ready, you
Good.
know? And that's my thing. I want to work with people that are ready. We can't force anybody. We can plant seeds. That's what we can do.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned you had been going through some growth yourself too. Is that I feel like a lot of people turn tune in to listen to Heart Parents or ask me questions too about what works with my kids. And for me, it's ever changing and it's always about growth and connecting. And I'm getting my feet wet. You told me to jump into the water. I loved that. But yeah, I feel like it's also personal growth and that's inspiring too.
I think we're always growing. And that was my thing. So what happened in my case was I got out of a toxic relationship and I thought that was one thing. But when I got out of it, I didn't see until I got out of it how many unhealthy people I had around me because I had developed, the boundaries. I was a people pleaser. I had all these other things going on. And um I have to give you
Lose a hungry
um
boy.
so that was where my next real work came. Is I had to start distinguishing who I could keep in my life and who I couldn't. And that was huge for me because I had to make some big decisions there. Um, but I think one of the things is when you want to start growing, especially when you're healing and growing, it gets even more important who you're surrounded with, right? Like,
Mm,
can you speak your truth with the person, right? Can you be authentic? I mean, if you can't be those things and you're trying to grow, it's just not going to work, you know? Yeah.
yeah.
And I was surrounded by a bunch of people that didn't support me growing. They liked the unhealed version of me.
Wow. Was it
Mhm.
they could control, or it was predictable?
It's control, it's predictable, and I mean, I took care of everybody. That was kind of my role, and I was a people pleaser, so it was easy. And all of a sudden, I started having boundaries and stuff, and it just, you know, that's the thing is like all of a sudden I started thinking like, is this reciprocal? You know what I mean? Am I overgiving? Because that's the other thing. We can
Mm.
tend to overgive. And we're programmed to think that, we were lacking something in childhood, and so that we had to make up for something, or, we weren't enough.
Wow. And placing boundaries, what did that look like for you? I'm curious. I feel like boundaries is another hot word right now, right? Like trauma is a big word. Inner child is a huge word. Boundaries.
Yeah, that was hard for me. I'd never done it. So it's just little by little. I think you just have to start with the little ones. And I think your your higher self, your soul kind of guides you. It guided me through that. Like, say someone would do something and maybe in real time I couldn't speak up and say, hey, that doesn't fit with me. That doesn't fit with me. But after, I would feel it in my body, knowing that I missed my opportunity to say something. And as I kept growing, it just got to where I got so uncomfortable I couldn't not say anything anymore.
Wow.
And so then I had to start speaking my truth. So all those little pieces, speaking the truth, being authentic, boundaries, all just kind of came together. And I had to start doing it because I just started getting so uncomfortable with myself if I didn't. So things that, yeah, that was kind of how it evolved for me. It wasn't even really like a decision. I mean, it was, but once you kind of decide that you're open to those things, the universe brings you all kinds of challenges and said, are you really ready to grow? Are you really ready to be healthy? Here, I'm going to put this person in your life and we'll see
Yeah.
how you do that.
Yeah. I feel like once you ask for it and you're ready for it, the floodgates just kind of open. I've had that experience in a different form, but yeah, definitely hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a lot of that happening. What's so with my best friend was one of the hardest ones that I had to let go. I had indication beforehand. I would have these little things kind of come in, and I would know that it wasn't feeling very healthy or whatever. But I hadn't done enough inner work yet. I felt whole enough to put those boundaries up and risk losing her because I had a feeling that if I spoke my truth and I put my boundaries up and I started saying I wasn't comfortable with this or having some conversations that she would not be happy with. And I knew this because when you're best friends with someone, you see how they react with other people when they're putting boundary up, right? They come to you and they tell you about these kind of things. And I got in a position as I grew where I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't handle it. So I started trying to speak my truth and she didn't like it. And just getting out of a relationship, being gaslit by someone after, I can't. You know what I mean? I have to have healthy people around me. And that's when I was like, this isn't worth
Yeah. I think that, I was really lucky because I did go through some stuff similar, or not similar, but, a situation where I had people that I had said, "This is not gonna be a good situation for my life. I'm gonna move on to other friendships." And it just kept coming back to me. I kept seeing these people around, but you had helped me through in that you need to, you need to be okay with the people seeing you in the version that they see in their own minds. You can't fix it. You need to move on and it'll be okay. And I did have like a hard moment that was like shoved right in my face. Like I turned around and there it was in my face. And I couldn't escape. I was like, what if I go over here? Nope, back in my face again. And I kept in the same moment as I'm trying to usher my child around. But so I had a hard morning, but it was interesting because in that same exact day, I was like, I'm going to sit in it. I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm going to try to just be calm and it is what it is, right? It is what it is. I had made a decision early on and I stuck with it. And then in the same afternoon, I had some really, really great friendships that I had started and had helped me when I was sick a year or two ago, had really helped me and be there for me. My husband had said, when you were sick and those people came, like that's who your friends are. Like that's real. That's heart to heart. And so I had those friends come to me that same afternoon. I was like, okay, thank you, universe, for rewarding me because my heart, even though I didn't, fix it, my heart was still hurting, even though I'm healing. My heart was hurting. And then I was rewarded. And it was like, wow, like this is what true friendship feels like. And it was amazing. So that's when I made those videos to thank
I
you
feel
and
like that,
Catherine.
I feel like that is how it works with the universe too. We know what I mean. We have to let stuff go to make room for the new. We have to show that we have learned that lesson.
Yeah.
And we don't always learn the lessons right away. You know what I mean? We
Right.
well, like healing isn't a straight line. It's not linear, right? So I find for myself, I admit it, I've had to come back to certain things 2 or 3 times. I mean, these were deep words that I know they're soul lessons that I had to learn, but I had to come back to them a couple times. And I don't see that as being a negative thing because I had to learn it in that depth. I was learning layers of it, but I wasn't grasping the whole picture. So I look at it as maybe I'm a slow learner, but when I learn it, I learn it deeply. It's taken me so many times.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It takes a few hits, right? That saying, it takes a few hits or knockdowns before you can sometimes bubble up because it takes a lot of courage to say enough or to end the situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
very courageous.
Now I'm just like, universe, I got it. I don't need any more. I've got it this time.
Yes, yes, I get it. And I'm feeling the same way. Like I am learning, you don't need to send it anymore. I've broken the cycle, so let's not bring the cycle back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it's powerful what you're doing because I mean, like you're seeing what you're learning, you know what I mean? You're breaking generational trauma. You know what I mean? You're changing things.
Yeah, it's true. I guess my mom used to always say when I would end up in situations, she would just say like, "Oh, we don't need them, walk away from it." And in a way, that was right, right? Like, walk away from it. Just be done. Whereas I was always like, "Oh, I need to fix it." I mean, my name is Carrie. I guess it goes with care for everyone. I need to fix it. Everybody needs to like me. So, yeah, I guess. But
But
it's
now you
interesting.
start to see that a little bit different. You know what I mean? You can care. That's the other thing. It doesn't mean you don't care.
Mm, yep, it's true. You can still care. But I love that. Yeah, and it's so powerful to be able to see these pieces. Yeah, recognizing these patterns and yeah, hearing it and seeing it. And I love the way you've told me several times, like, and I know it too. It's always such a reminder, right? When you hear it from somebody else, it's like, oh yeah, you know it in your mind, but you can't acknowledge it in your mind. So then of course Paula says it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Just not going against the flow and not, swimming upstream, going against the resistance. How does this feel in my heart? I love that.
Yeah. For me, I think a lot of it was I was really disconnected from my body in the past. So it was just like tuning into my body. Like I think in the past, I'm sure for my whole life up until now, my body was probably screaming, no, 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 that's wrong. But I was dissociating so much from it that it took me a long time to like be, you say your heart and I'm like my body. Like, you know what I mean? I was kind of like, okay, how do you feel though? Not in the mind. Like, how do you feel?
Yep. Yeah, I designate, I always say heart to heart or hear your heart. That's how I
Yeah.
started, like, with the children. It was the easiest way. Some people call it gut. Some people say body, skin, right? How does your skin feel? And I ask my kids a lot, how does your skin does your skin feel itchy? Does it feel fuzzy? Like, all of those adjectives are great ways to tune in for us. Doesn't always have to be hard. I love that reminder.
And is it natural to that? Like, are they pretty used to that? You asking those questions?
They've really grown a lot in it. OTs have taught them, they have like a chart and they say, and I love this because how many of us would be in a different lane of hearing our hearts if we could think about where our body is in our day. So
Mhm.
we'll get to an OT and they have a chart and it shows all these different versions of how you could be feeling. And it's not just like happy, sad, angry. It's like connected, empowered, calm and steady. It's all of these things. And I'm like, wow, can you imagine where these kids are going to be one day when they're adults and they're like, well, this relationship does not make me feel calm and steady today.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Since started looking at your friendships and your relationships different, since we like started talking and stuff, are you feeling more empowered? Like, are you feeling more solid? And
Yeah, it's definitely I agree that it's not I think it's like you mentioned, it's not like an immediate, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm ready. It definitely has been like a little bit of it's like a roller coaster because you still have those feelings, and I am a deeply feeling human. I am a very sensitive person. So, but yeah, it does feel empowering, and I really appreciate when the universe rewards it and gives me like a little bit of a job well done, Carrie. Keep on your
Yeah,
journey.
sprinkling some little, I think almost like sometimes we're getting little breadcrumbs sprinkled. You know what I mean? Like, here you go. Yeah, you're in the right path. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that you've been having that like in your life. There's so many sprinkles coming your way and it's
Mhm.
so amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's fun. I think, that's part of the magic of things when we let go of the idea of, and I think I've talked to you about this before, thinking that something has to be one specific way. Because I think if we get that idea in our head, we can miss out on what is actually for us. You know what I mean? So if we loosen the grips on things and get into flow, we can actually see, you know what I mean, what's in front of us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's definitely it doesn't have to be black and white. It can be gray for sure.
Mhm.
And being able to notice all these different colors and hues in the rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a little bit what's been happening for me. There's different approaches to things, and it doesn't have to be exactly what I was thinking. And the way that it's lighting up as I go towards it, I'm definitely getting confirmation that I'm on the right path for sure.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
so tell us, Paula, if when you tell somebody, yes, you've been doing a good job of hearing your heart, you've been getting your toes wet, you need to jump in the water. What do you think that means? Tell our listeners, how do we jump in? We're ready.
How do we do it? We just start stepping towards, sometimes it's stepping towards the comfort. If I understand the question that you're asking me. Yeah. And it's being brave. And sometimes, so that's why I think it's so important to have healthy people around. You know what I mean? Like we've got each other. You know what I mean? You could always
Yeah.
say, hey, Paula, we've talked about this. So that's why I think it is so important, the relationships and the people we have around us. That's something that I preach all the time.
Yep.
They, yeah, it's super powerful. So when you have that, it makes taking those steps into the deeper end and getting a little bit, stepping further into it a little bit more comfortable because, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not being too afraid to look. It's sitting and not turning away from the uncomfortable and letting whatever needs to come up. And we don't always have to stay in it. We can just, you know, do it and then come back and get comfortable. That's the other piece, you know.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, taking a minute to reset. I love you've mentioned to me too. Pivoting is a great
Mhm.
one. like we talked about the resistant, if it was getting resistant, you can pivot. And that was really powerful too. I love that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think we both learned like social media, sometimes we need to pivot a little bit.
Yeah. And uh, social media, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to in client social media comes up. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we really have to stay in our power and not get too affected by things, right? And I think I've chatted with you before, if we put something out there, maybe it doesn't reach the amount of people that, we want to or whatever. If we really believe in putting that message out there, how many people does it actually need to make a difference? I mean, if this is all about our purpose, right? And for me, that's what it is. And I'm sure that is with you too, right? It's the people that hear it, and we don't know how it's going to ripple from that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think when we use it, use social media as a positive mindset and it's a platform, right? And
Mhm.
it's a platform, it's a way to connect with others. It's how I met you. It's how I've met several really amazing, open-minded spiritual people out there and using it in a positive way as a resource. And yeah,
Yeah.
we can reach
The,
those.
the community is the favorite part for me. Like that blew me away because in my real life, still growing and stuff, I cut so many people out that I'm still kind of building my community again. And I'm not in a hurry to just like let everyone in. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of taking my time. And so the Instagram community it's been beautiful and it blows me away all the time with the connections and the people. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I've had more support there than in my everyday life. I can honestly say that easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I had a little bit of a rough week. Just having the kids home, adjusting to that, packing for a trip next week, and then we think we were hit with a pretty bad bug this week, head bug. And and yeah, just being a busy mama with the podcasting, the floodgates have opened, Paula. It's amazing. And so yeah, just being hit and then just having our Instagram community to be like, this was a hard week but yeah, they understand and they're still supportive and yeah, it's really once we can find our vibe tribe, like our our collab group, it's amazing and finding those real friends is a huge piece of helping us to reconnect with ourselves, people that support us so we can hear ourselves and yeah, they're not afraid to say to pivot when you need to.
I know. And isn't that what we do, right? There may be things that we know, but to have people that, you know what I mean, can kind of be there to remind us. And I think that's what it is. It's they're able to remind me, right?
Yeah. And also I love like there's so many modalities of connecting with our hearts and or our bodies or our guts or our intuitions. There's so many modalities and sometimes we forget them. Like I forget about a movement version of meditation because it's so easy for me to just sit, do a little Reiki, do a little like a chakra alignment and meditate in the morning. That's what I usually do. Then you do different versions. Everybody does different versions
Mhm.
of meditation. What's your favorite modality?
That's- It's tricky for me. Movement is definitely part of it, and nature. When I'm moving and I'm out in nature, it's so natural for me. And I look back at it now, and it's from my childhood and what I naturally did without knowing it, right? Definitely meditation. Meditation, whether it was being, it, it was what shifted everything. Like it gave me the self awareness. It gave me the capability to stop reacting so that I could kind of like and start responding or things when I needed to and things. Yeah. So meditation, like just, sitting,
Yeah.
maybe the music playing. When I started out, guided meditations was what I did. I still like them sometimes, like, you know what I mean? I'll
Yeah.
still go to them for certain things, but uh,
I think it's great. The guided meditations are, you know, I feel like a lot of people are really into the active meditation, but I think like if you're not able to learn how to calm your mind too, like once you can kind of get that peace with the guided meditation, this is what how my husband was, where he needed the guiding. Once he could figure that out, then I feel like the active meditation is so powerful. But yeah, when I was younger, my grandmother always preached meditation, and I always thought it was like sitting with all your thoughts and listening to your thoughts.
Yes.
Probably the opposite. Or it is opposite.
So when did you actually start meditating? Like how long ago?
Well, so I tried to do it when I was like in my early 20s, but you just get so absorbed into academics. And so when I was pregnant with my son, my husband and I don't remember what the reason was, but we decided, okay, we have this 7 steps of meditation tips. And so as soon as I became pregnant, each night we would do a different step. And so we would go through that step every night. Look at us. I know the two of us, we were really lucky we found each other.
Gonna say that is so cool, and you're so lucky because do you know what I mean? That's mind blowing. That's crazy.
I know. We really are lucky that we have each other to kind of challenge each other, to support each other. I mean, we do challenge in our sense of like, well, you're really in your mind right now. And sometimes I'll just be really supporting my husband. And he's like, okay, that's enough support. Like, you're really hitting me with it right now. I'm like, oh, sorry. I thought you really wanted it. But yeah, so we started doing these meditative pieces when I was pregnant with my son. And it was really cool because I didn't realize later on looking back, I would get into my mind a lot. I always thought, oh, I'm such a calm person. But in my head, I was going through these cycles, especially with all the emotions and everything being pregnant. So look what I did without even realizing it. We were drawn to it. And then during my labor, I had this amazing experience. My mom and dad were there, and I had the epidural. It was kind of a hard situation. I had wanted to go naturally, but I didn't know at that time, I didn't know how to deal with the pain. And we weren't given enough tools. We did this labor and delivery class with the hospital, which did not teach us anything. It just like gave us so many fears of what could happen. Like, this could happen. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, my
Yeah.
husband and I were so nervous. And so I had to give into the epidural at that point. I didn't have any way. I felt like I was fighting the pain. That's how I dealt with it when I was 30 years old. Like, fight the pain. And um, so my body was shaking after the epidural. It was just this shaky feeling. And my husband was like, let's meditate. And my mom was there, and she's very spiritual too. She's helped raise me spiritually. And so she said, let's meditate. And so the three of us were meditating, and you could just watch the shaking just stop. And it was just calm. My whole entire body would just get calm. And then a nurse would come in, we have to talk, whatever. I'd start shaking again. We'd meditate, and it would just stop again. My dad said, he's from Montana, so he was not raised with the spiritual version that my mom raised me with, being with our Argentine background. And he said it really made him a believer. Like, I could see what it did to your system, and it was just this calm situation. And yeah, that my buddy, he wanted to come right out right away. Then the doctor wasn't even there, and they were like, hold him in. So I had to hold him in. But yeah, that calmness, right? It's just when you can see what it does for your system, it's pretty powerful.
I've used meditation for pain too, like breathing into certain things. And I've actually been able to, like, within a couple minutes, been able to feel like very obvious pain and just go away by actually like almost like going into it
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. That's I love it. And I definitely have done that. The modality that kind of brought me back when I was very into my head as a mom and freaking out and trying to like very sensitive child, like, what do I do? What do I have them? I studied Reiki. My husband and I both did level 1 Reiki, and it was amazing. It really brought us into like a higher state with our meditation, and both of my kids actually ask for Reiki now when they get hurt or if they're sick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
So yeah, I totally believe the mindset and just calming our minds, because yeah, it's really easy when you're in that pain spot to go straight up into your brain and, live in that pain and fighting that pain. Whereas my husband, he was the one with the second pregnancy. He said, "I noticed that you fight your pain with the first one and you had to get that epidural. We were very, very lucky in the second one. We had this doula that taught us all of these pain management techniques and like herbs and or aromatherapy and the yoga balls and walking and all these different things that helped me so I could have a natural birth the second time.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, so it was amazing to see, like, when we can calm out our systems and really get into that, it really helps us. Yeah. So I love all these growth pieces. You've helped yourself, you're helping others, and I love sharing with the community all these ways that we can grow, because when we're teaching ourselves, we're helping our kids too, and all
That's
of
the
it.
thing. I mean, there's things, I had my kids really young. I still had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Um, so when I started learning about, how much our childhood affects us, of course, one of the first things I do is look at, oh, you know, I wanted to be such a good mom and I put so much focus into raising them, right? But I realized how much without being aware of it had been passed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a big part of what I do now too, right? Is knowing that they are still watching me. They may be, you know what I mean? But they're still seeing what and I still get to have conversations with them and try to make
Yeah.
a difference in that.
Yeah, you're still being that example. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're living and doing it, because if we're just preaching it, it
Yeah, no, they get to see my growth all the time, and I know they're proud of me for sure. They've seen me come a long way in
Yeah.
I would say still a fairly short amount of time. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's so powerful when they can see us in our growth, because life is not about, like, you get through your schooling and then you're done. You shut the door. No more learning.
Yeah. Yeah, my son said something to me a few months ago about, he never would have thought that he's not saying I was a match, but he just said that now he's like, "You're like the most normal person around me now." And I was like, "Really? Cool." And normal meaning he meant like, you know what I mean, by having it together. And it's just cool because he also watched me struggle for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I was
really
just
cool.
like, "I did it."
It is a good thing to hear. That's really sweet. Paula, you have to tell us, what is your superhuman power?
But definitely say my intuition. Uh, but I was actually thinking about that recently. And I think that's in competition with my ability to kind of reframe things when I'm having an experience that's uncomfortable. And I don't mean like pushing things down. I mean, um, say I'm feeling in a rush or I'm feeling myself forcing and just the ability to be able to sit down and get into it and enjoy the experience instead of like going away from it or, you know, stay on stuck outside in the rain working and you stop for a minute and look around outside in nature and like focus on, yeah, within my experience and reframing things. It's something I worked on for so long and it's finally natural and I love it. It's, yeah, it's
I
become a
love
muscle that's very well exercised now.
That's great. I love that, because I've been working on, guiding my kids and reframing their thoughts for so long. It's like, okay, they will get there one day. The
Oh,
little
they will,
ducklings will
especially,
fly.
well, especially because it's so young. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
you're working on that. But I love that you're working on with them with all the mindfulness stuff. I mean, they've got quite an awesome for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we start young, they don't develop as many of these layers, the protective layers. They can tune in a little easier and hear those feelings that they're feeling. And yeah, with these charts, and I'll have to share the chart with you that the OT uses with the kids because you might really enjoy it. And
No, I like to see that. That'd be cool for sure.
yeah, I love that. So, how do our listeners find you, Paula?
Over on Instagram, I'm very active over there. And I've done a lot of posts and reels about relationships, friendships, mindset, and stuff. So you can scroll through there. And uh, in the next, probably by the time this episode ends up, we'll have a inner child healing meditation that I've just created and that you'll be able to find over there too.
Okay. That's great. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. This was a good time. I love it. Great.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too.